Chosen one. You didn't stumble on this by chance. This moment was written into your journey long before you pressed play. This is bigger than a video. This is divine alignment. If you're hearing these words right now, it's because you're marked for something greater. And heaven is sounding the alarm. It's your time. You've been carrying weight in silence. You've been showing up for everyone else, praying behind closed doors, staying faithful even when it hurt, and still wondering when your moment would come. Well, this is it. This is your confirmation. You are not invisible. You are not forgotten. You are not crazy for believing there's something extraordinary about you, even if the people closest to you never saw it. Let me be real with you. What's coming for you is not coming through familiar faces. It's coming through divine connection, holy orchestration, supernatural reversal. Get ready, because the shift isn't coming. It has already started. And guess what? You're not late. You're right on time. So stay locked in. Turn everything else off and tune in with your whole spirit. Because what you're about to receive is going to wake something up in you. This message carries keys, and if you're here, it means you're ready to unlock the next chapter of your life. Drop a 55 in the comments if your spirit's already stirring. Type, "I'm ready," if you feel this is for you. And remember, only the chosen recognize the call. The rest scroll past. But you showed up. And that tells me everything I need to know. You were born for more. Looking for purpose and peace? Hit subscribe and start the journey. Some truths strike deep, not because they're harsh, but because they unveil what was hidden in plain sight. There are times when the ones who walked the same roads as you, who laughed with you, cried with you, and watched you grow, fail to grasp what's unfolding within you. Not because there's nothing special blooming inside, but because their vision became dull from proximity. They remember the missteps, the awkward moments, the quiet days of your becoming, and they locked those images in their minds like snapshots from a forgotten photo album. What they held onto was your formation, but what they missed entirely was the force quietly taking shape beneath it all. They witnessed your early versions, the ones still wrestling with uncertainty, still fumbling with dreams too big for your current frame. And because they knew those versions so well, they couldn't imagine anything beyond them. What was really happening, though, was not failure or stagnation. It was incubation. While they rolled their eyes at your persistence or dismissed your silence, something sacred was sharpening itself in the background. Step beyond the screen, join and help light the way for others. This wasn't oversight, it was orchestration. There's power in not being fully seen, especially by those who might have tried to define you too soon. If they had noticed the true scope of your inner shift, they may have tried to interrupt it, clip it, contain it. But the blueprint of your path was never meant to be filtered through their lens. They were only given access to the early draft, never the final manuscript. Now, that story is turning. A different kind of presence is approaching, not bound by your history, not attached to the image others painted of you. They will not require proof. They won't need backstory. Their recognition will be instinctive, their intention precise. They're arriving not to validate your past, but to connect with your unfolding. They're drawn not by reputation, but by resonance. So let go of the need to be seen by those who only remember your shadows. They were never meant to understand the magnitude of what you carry. The ones who walked with you in the dust were there to witness the beginning. The one arriving now, they come to witness the rise. This is not about proving anyone wrong. It's about stepping fully into what was always rightfully yours. You were never invisible. You are being refined. Now comes the unveiling. When your heart is full of God's love, it's a sign to give. By tapping the super thank you button and offering $100 or more, you become a vessel of His grace. Your generosity can change lives, reaching hearts you may never meet. You have a divine purpose, and this act of faith carries His light forward. Give now, and may His blessings surround you always. Some foundations are shaken not by failure, but by divine strategy. A pulling away that feels like abandonment, but is, in truth, the safeguarding of something sacred. The ache left behind by those who should have stood by your side wasn't just human error. It wasn't simply neglect or indifference or broken loyalty. That absence was permissioned from a higher place. What looked like silence from those you leaned on was actually intervention, an intentional withholding to protect what was being carefully shaped inside of you. Not everyone was meant to have access to what was emerging, because not every presence can handle power without trying to possess it. This was not about bitterness or revenge. It was about boundaries ordained from above. Some connections were cut before they could contaminate. What was being prepared in you was not for public preview. It was reserved for the right environment, the right alignment, the right spirits. If certain people had remained, they would have distorted the outcome, tried to recast your story in their own image, and claimed credit for a journey they never invested in. The barrier wasn't punishment, it was preservation. There was a quiet shield placed between your evolution and the dysfunction that would have stalled it. You questioned the stillness, the vanishing voices, the lonely winds, and isolated pain. But what felt like neglect was actually nurturing. Growth needs silence. Transformation demands solitude. So the calls were never returned, the apologies never made, and the support never came. Not because you weren't worthy, but because the elevation required a purification. Had they remained close, they would have turned your rise into their resume. They would have used your victories as proof of their own importance. But the unfolding of your purpose was never meant to be a group project. The blueprint was too delicate, the instructions too sacred, the promise too costly. Now, as clarity settles in and the wounds no longer sting, the time for a new presence is drawing near. One who won't ask for proof, won't compete for credit, and won't shrink in the brightness of your becoming. Their eyes won't search for your flaws, they will focus on your fire. This new connection is not rooted in shared past, but in shared purpose. They are not from your history, but from the horizon of what's next. Where blood ties once broke, purpose ties will now restore. What you were denied in loyalty, you will receive in alignment. The gaps left by those who walked away will be filled by those who were never meant to walk with you, only toward you, at the right moment, carrying not memories, but mission. The absence was necessary. The distance was divine. And now, the arrival is near. Step beyond the screen. Join and help light the way for others. Some moments in life are not born from logic or pattern. They arrive through alignment far beyond human comprehension. A connection is forming, one that will not emerge from familiar surroundings, past entanglements, or shared timelines. This bond will not be rooted in memory, but in mission. A figure unknown to your history is being positioned, not from past experiences, but from divine coordination, crafted in silence while your journey unfolded behind closed doors. While your hands were rebuilding and your spirit was unlearning old narratives, theirs were being prepared to receive what you carry without prejudice, hesitation, or agenda. This person will not arrive seeking explanation. Their role is not to question, but to activate. What you have been trying to build without blueprint, they will recognize without effort. Not through research, but through revelation. Their awareness of you will not be based on observation. It will come from a knowing that transcends logic. Their arrival marks not just a meeting, but a merging of divine timing and sacred purpose. Unlike those who once needed you to explain your value, they will not require a defense of your destiny. There will be no interrogation, no discomfort, no pressure to adjust who you are to fit their perception. They will meet you exactly where your growth has placed you, with understanding that feels like clarity and presence that feels like a doorway unlocking. They may appear as a leader, a collaborator, a supporter, or even someone whose influence changes the entire trajectory of your direction. Their strength is not in position, but in purpose. They are not impressed by image, but drawn to essence. They do not carry stories about you. They carry instructions concerning you. Their voice will not echo your doubts, but affirm your direction. When they show up, it will not feel random, it will feel right. Not because of shared memories, but because of spiritual resonance. You will not feel the need to shrink, perform, or rehearse. You will feel like you have arrived in a room already expecting you. When your heart is full of God's love, it's a sign to give. By tapping the super thank you button and offering $100 or more, you become a vessel of His grace. Your generosity can change lives, reaching hearts you may never meet. You have a divine purpose, and this act of faith carries His light forward. Give now, and may His blessings surround you always. This connection was never meant to be based on familiarity, but on fulfillment. They haven't been listening to the noise around your name. They haven't been shaped by rumors, misunderstandings, or projections. All they know is that something within them was stirred to respond when the time became ripe. They come not with demands, but with deposits, tools, wisdom, access, or elevation. Whatever heaven chose to funnel through them for your next phase. Their arrival isn't charity nor chance, it's a divine transaction. The moments where you were unseen are now converging into visibility. What was once overlooked will now be oversupplied. This meeting has been scheduled in eternity, long before you recognize the need for it. Do not retreat when the unfamiliar enters with peace. Do not dismiss the answer just because it comes from an unknown hand. Receive the arrival. Recognize the alignment. What's coming isn't random, it's righteous. Some breakthroughs arrive not with warning, but with wonder, and they reveal that what was withheld was never lost, only rerouted. There's a shift coming that will feel like a lifetime being rewritten in the space of a few conversations. You've long waited for a certain kind of support, one rooted in shared origin, familiar faces, and the people you thought would naturally stand by you. But what you're about to witness will come from an entirely unexpected source, carrying a depth of care and clarity that outpaces everything you've been waiting for. You once hoped those closest to you would catch your vision, pour into your efforts, uplift your voice. But instead, you were met with unanswered moments, unexplained distance, and a silence that carved out deep spaces of disappointment. You gave, you showed up, you held space for others, all while your own needs were pushed to the background. Their absence wasn't just painful, it echoed. Still, you kept your posture steady. You didn't let the silence define your story. You moved forward without applause, without recognition, without assistance. You didn't mimic the neglect you experienced. You responded with grace. You chose wholeness. You chose healing. You chose to keep building even when the ground felt unstable. What happens next will not be the result of your striving. It will be the fruit of divine timing. A new person is stepping into your atmosphere. Not a familiar name, not a returning figure, but someone led by insight, not history. They won't flinch, won't hesitate, won't stall. Their actions will flow with purpose, and their presence will accelerate what's been paused for far too long. This isn't about recompense, it's about restoration. Where delay once lived, progress will now erupt. They will recognize the depth of your work without needing the full backstory. They'll respond not to what you say, but to what they're prompted to do. And they will move swiftly, not out of obligation, but because they've been instructed to. This isn't favor earned in the conventional sense, it's favor drawn from endurance. Every overlooked effort, every unreturned gesture, every moment you celebrated others while receiving nothing in return, none of it was unseen. Those quiet sacrifices were seeds, and now a harvest is coming through someone completely disconnected from your past, yet deeply aligned with your purpose. They will give generously without history. They will trust without proof. They will honor what others mishandled, not because you convinced them, but because they were called. They will offer the kind of breakthrough your heart stopped asking for, but your faith still made room for. Do not be startled by how fast it happens. Do not second-guess the ease of it. This is the justice of timing, not a twist of fate. This is alignment showing up in human form. And when it unfolds, you'll understand. It was never about them giving you what you deserved. It was always about the right moment delivering what was promised. Some callings don't announce themselves with noise. They unfold in silence, cloaked in the ordinary, yet burning with undeniable significance. For years, you felt like a misplaced piece in every setting, like your presence was tolerated, but never truly seen. You entered spaces hoping to belong, only to feel as if your weight was never measured correctly. Celebration circled around you, never landing. Validation seemed always just out of reach, but what felt like dismissal was actually divine concealment. You weren't set aside out of insignificance. You were placed behind the curtain because what was growing inside you was too sacred for early exposure. Destiny wasn't delayed, it was safeguarded. You weren't excluded, you were preserved. Many saw your routine, but not your root. They noted your actions, but never discerned the authority forming beneath them. You labored in shadows. You refined your posture in quiet corners. While others performed, you prepared. You didn't match their image of greatness, so they misread you. You didn't carry the loud credentials or the visible status, so they assumed your impact would be small. But what they failed to realize is that brilliance doesn't always announce itself with spectacle. It often begins with silence. Your journey was curated with intentional layers of anonymity. You were being shielded from premature applause and the kind of attention that poisons purpose. The space you longed to be seen in wasn't denial, it was incubation. Every unnoticed effort, every private victory, every silent sacrifice was a thread in something regal being woven in time. Now a moment is approaching, a shift wrapped in alignment. Someone is being drawn toward your path, not by rumor, not by reputation, but by divine directive. They will not glance at you through the lens of your struggle. They will meet your essence without needing explanation. Where others saw something common, they will perceive something consecrated. They will acknowledge what others dismissed, not because of persuasion, but because of prophetic clarity. Their arrival isn't tied to ambition or gain. They are not entering to evaluate your potential, but to ignite your place in the plan. They will not echo the voices of your past. They will speak into your becoming. And they won't hesitate. They will recognize and respond. This isn't about being discovered. It's about being revealed at the appointed time. No striving, no chasing, just emergence. The silence was part of the strategy. The shadows were part of the story. And now, as the stage clears, you'll understand. The time away from visibility wasn't a loss. It was a luxury granted by grace. The next chapter doesn't begin with introduction. It begins with confirmation. And what's about to unfold will make clear that the hidden were never forgotten. They were just being prepared to rule differently. Some transitions aren't about who's being replaced. They're about what's being realigned for the sake of what's being divinely assigned. There's a shift happening that has nothing to do with abandoning your roots and everything to do with completing your reason for being here. The ache you once felt, the longing to be seen by those tied to your origin, was never proof of failure, only evidence that not everyone is equipped to carry the weight of your unfolding. Their absence was not a rejection of your worth, but a redirection of your reliance. Love may remain, and forgiveness may have already been extended, but now clarity has entered the room. You understand that the ones you thought would journey with you were never tasked with carrying the vision. The support you needed was never lost. It simply hadn't been released yet, because it wasn't meant to come from where you assumed it would. Now, new voices are rising, unfamiliar, but divinely calibrated. They weren't present during your struggles, but they've been prepared to partner with your assignment. They won't ask for your backstory. They'll speak into your blueprint. They won't come to revisit old wounds. They'll come to reinforce what's ahead. Their presence won't feel invasive. It will feel appointed. This isn't about rewriting your family roles. It's about recognizing that divine strategy rarely follows human logic. When old relationships can no longer serve the expansion of who you are, heaven authorizes new alignments to appear, not to erase connection, but to reinforce calling. Some individuals were never meant to echo your last name. They were designed to echo your next level. They may have no history with your past, but they are aligned with your becoming. And when they arrive, you won't need to armor up. You won't have to negotiate your worth or dilute your identity. They will see you, hear you, and honor the sacred within you. These relationships will not be based on sentiment. They will be shaped by strategy. What once felt like absence will now be answered with alignment. The void left by unspoken words and unmet expectations will be filled with intentionality and grace. These new connections won't demand, they'll deliver. They won't measure you by where you've been. They'll invest in where you're going. Do not resist this. Do not grieve what never carried the capacity. What's coming isn't here to compete with the past. It's here to complete your purpose. This is about divine fulfillment, not emotional substitution. The roles that once remained vacant are being reassigned to those who were created to fulfill them with clarity, purity, and power. And when it unfolds, it will make sense. Not because it resembles what you hoped for, but because it finally reflects what you were destined for. Some souls are forged in silence, not because they are weak, but because their brilliance is too sacred for early applause. There has been a quiet weight you've carried, the kind others couldn't see because you dressed it in composure. You've shown up with grace, while your spirit ached for acknowledgement, longing to hear words of affirmation from those who once felt like home. You found only detachment, not because your worth was missing, but because they lacked the lens to see it. The absence of encouragement did not mean absence of value. You weren't overlooked because you were invisible. You were simply planted too deep for shallow eyes. What you needed wasn't extravagant, just presence, belief, an echo of "I see you" spoken in truth. But instead of affirmation, you received avoidance. You were analyzed, not embraced, observed, not supported. You wrestled quietly with the thought that maybe the problem was you. Maybe you dreamed too boldly. Maybe your depth made others uncomfortable. Maybe your voice echoed where silence was preferred. But here's the divine clarity. Your difference wasn't a defect, it was design. What didn't arrive before is now being summoned by divine timing. The affirmation is still coming, but from beyond the circle you thought it would come from. Not from those who watched you grow, but from those who were chosen to help you rise. Not because of what you've achieved, but because of who you've always been. A new presence is stepping into your story, not drawn by familiarity, but led by divine recognition. They won't require an explanation. They'll carry awareness. They're not coming to analyze your potential. They're arriving to honor your essence. They've been stirred by something sacred, something they can't ignore, the quiet magnitude of your becoming. They will not request credentials. They will respond with certainty. Their words will feel like long-lost healing, and their actions will open doors that were once sealed shut. They will give what others withheld, not because they owe you, but because they've been assigned to. And when it happens, the weight of those unmet expectations will begin to lift. The pain of having your worth unnoticed by the familiar will pale in comparison to the clarity of being seen by the ordained. This is not pity in disguise, it's providence in motion. Don't be surprised when unfamiliar voices speak with more truth than familiar ones ever did. Don't resist the shift simply because it arrives from the unexpected. Let it happen. Let honor rise from places that once felt distant. Let peace come from faces you've never seen.